Welcome to Jump Cut number 16 of the podcast Heavy or Not. This is Coach Mark Rodicus, and we're going to start today with a travel story. Put a focus on how it is that athletes and coaches have to trek a long ways to compete. I'm just back from a big trip, but Barry Healey had to go to Provincial Championships, or really got to go. You don't have to go. And it means climbing mountains in Western Canada, in BC, and even taking a ferry. That travel is taxing.
Just coming back from the land of the zombies.
What do you mean?
The drive there over the mountains, I was fine on the mountain climb all the way up, and then as soon as I got right to the top, there's a toilet. There used to be a toll booth right at the top, right? That's how they paid for that highway for the first maybe 5 or 6 years. get right to the top. It was a little bit of snow, like on the trees and everything all the way up, but the road was clear. And get right to the top, 5 inches of snow. The trucks, they'd not cleared at all. It was just to even get into the washroom was a problem. Lucky enough, I've got a 4x4, so I pull off, and the police officer pulls behind me, and he said, "Whoa, didn't expect this." And I go, "No, I didn't expect this." And then the drive down was horrendous, like just crazy. But I did another hour, and I decided to take a coffee. Get to the ferry terminal, and they go, "Have you got a booking?" I go, "No, I've not got a booking." And go, "Well, you're not going to catch the 11 o'clock, and I don't think you're going to catch the 5 o'clock." And I go,
"Whoa!"
Right? I go, "You're joking?" They go, No, we're fully booked." And I sort of missed getting on the one ahead, right, by 2 cars. 2 cars in front of me went, and then left 2 cars, and I shit. So I have to phone everybody and tell them that I might not even make the warm-up, right? We had pool time booked. And I said, I'll try and do a deal with my other coaching friends on the island to see if they can cover my kids, because sometimes they won't if you don't have a coach, they won't let you swim, right? So I wait for the next ferry. And all the lines are either side of me are just going and going and going. And I see I put the cones down. And you can, now my eyesight's not too bad. You can see the numbers running on the thing, right? So I called the lady over. I said, "I've got to be on this one." I said that my kids have just left on the ferry before. I said, "I'm riding crap if I don't get, I think we might be able to get you on." So they get me on. I'm the last car on the ferry. Like, they even have to put the bloody blocks behind my car so it doesn't fall off the back. So I get there. The meet runs every morning. I have to get up at 5:30. Get there, and half an hour drive. Didn't come out of the heat sometimes till 2:30. Warm up is 4, right? A couple of days I got back, just had a shave, and then come back again. On the day we changed, it was like no go. It was sort of like, I'm up at 5, I'm at the pool at 6, right? Still on pool deck at 8:20 at night, and I just shot. I was more worried in the morning, because I'd asked Swim BC. I said, it really helped me and the kids if we could pull out of the final and go to the morning swims, right? Then I don't have to worry about it. And Swim BC said, "Barry, take a hike. We won't even do that for Paris." And I go, that's bullshit, right, guys? Yet on Sunday, all the Vancouver teams wanted to move all the relays to the morning so they could catch the last ferry home, right, to them. And I'm going, "Guys, this is crap. You wouldn't even think about me. I have a ferry ride and then a 6-hour drive, right? And now these guys only have a ferry ride and maybe a 30-minute drive. But you're willing to do that just because of the numbers?" I said, "That's bullshit," right? So my brain is fried, but I'm starting to come down. I slept better last night. First couple of nights, it was like, whoa, what did we do?
We want to hear about your travel stories. Maybe it was a team trip, a bus trip. Maybe it was a long distance flight where you had to come to an ISCA meet down in St. Petersburg. Whatever it is, if you have some interesting team travel trips or individual travel trips, share them with me. We have a WeTransfer account, youcanswim.wetransfer.com. I'd love for you to record them and send them on, and maybe we'll share them here on our podcast, Heavy or Not. Travel's a big part of what happens in sport, and this year, NCAA Madness time, I was shaking my head when Cal Berkeley played against Stanford in a basketball game in the ACC tournament way down in North Carolina. Ridiculous to have these athletes travel that far at the end of the season for basketball games when they could be playing each other just miles away. Oh well, so share your travel stories. Now we're going to jump over to a presentation by an Australian coach. Actually, he's born in the Netherlands, now coaching in Australia, Sanders. This was part of the seminars at wafsu.org.
We're going to explore the training of Sander Ganzevles. He's an Olympic swim coach, and we've got some really cool stuff to unpack. We got a seminar recap and also some of his personal training notes, and trying to understand how he builds champion swimmers. What are the secrets? What's the method? I'm already interested in how he uses all this data to create super personalized training plans. And he even has things in his notes like scheduling school carnivals and stuff. It's like he's not just thinking workouts, he's thinking about the whole athlete.
It's really fascinating. He uses past race performance as more than just a measure of speed. It's like he's almost psychoanalyzing the swimmer in the moment, like under pressure.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, oh, you swam a 50 freestyle in 25 seconds. It's like, did they tense up at the turn, or did their stroke shorten under pressure?
Exactly. He's looking for those little subtle shifts in their technique and their mental state. And that's where he sees the real training opportunities are. So it's not just about fixing a slow start. It's like, why was that start slow? Was it a physical hesitation or was it a mental block? And that's where these super specific goals come into play.
And you see those goals threaded through all these notes. And it's not just shaving off milliseconds. It's very specific stroke counts, breath control, even visualization techniques for pre-race anxiety. It gets granular.
Oh, yeah. And then he takes those big picture goals for the whole season and he breaks them down into these mini missions for each week, each practice. He's got notes about travel, competitions, school carnivals, because those all affect their energy and focus.
It's like this ripple effect of goals coming out from that analysis of the past races. And then he builds in the concept of macro and micro cycles, right? So you have the big training blocks for the season, but then also these weekly ebbs and flows of intensity.
Yeah, and within all that, you've got progressive overload. So instead of shocking the system with sudden difficulty spikes, he's gradually ramping up that challenge week over week.
Okay, so we've established that he is a data and goal-setting fanatic. But then how does that translate into personalized plans for different swimming events? It's not like he's got a single blueprint for everyone, right?
You're exactly right. One-size-fits-all approach doesn't work at the elite level. You've got to think about it. A 50-meter freestyle sprinter needs explosive power, a lightning-fast start. But a 1,500-meter distance swimmer needs crazy endurance and a really efficient stroke.
So it's not just tailoring the workout. It's tailoring which energy system is being stressed. A sprinter is working anaerobically, and a distance swimmer needs that aerobic engine humming.
Precisely. And even within a single stroke freestyle, the emphasis shifts depending on the event. A sprinter might go for a high stroke rate, but a distance swimmer is going to maximize that stroke length, minimize drag.
And this is where his obsession with stroke length and efficiency comes in, right? It's not just churning out more laps. It's swimming smarter, not harder.
Yeah, exactly. He talks about reducing wasted strokes, making every movement count, getting the most propulsion with the least amount of energy, turning swimmers into these hydrodynamic machines.
Okay, so we've got data-driven goals, personalized plans based on the event energy systems. But what happens when a swimmer has a glaring weakness? Does he just ignore it and focus on their strengths?
No. He is all about turning those weaknesses into assets. And he tells a story in the seminar notes about a swimmer who had a terrible underwater dolphin kick. Most coaches would probably just brush it aside. But Ganzevles, he went into overdrive. Resistance bands, specialized drills, tons of repetitions. And you know what? That weakness eventually became their secret weapon.
Wow. So he sees a weakness as an opportunity, not something to be hidden.
It really does speak to his mindset as a coach. There's always room for improvement. And sometimes the biggest gains come from addressing those areas that people just overlook.
But it's not all physical. We've seen some hints about his focus on the mental training, too.
Yeah, he's very firm on this point. Racing under pressure is a skill that needs to be trained just like physical aspects. He sees that as the key differentiator between good swimmers and champions.
Okay, so does he have like a psychologist on staff? Like, what does this mental training actually look like?
You know, the seminar notes are a little light on specifics. They mention visualization techniques and strategies for managing those pre-race jitters. But to really understand his methodology, we'd have to dig a little deeper into his work.
Well, maybe we'll get lucky and find some more of that in those personal training notes. And speaking of which, let's talk about this commit software he keeps mentioning. I'm really curious how technology plays into all of this.
This software seems to be his weapon of choice for creating those super detailed and individualized workout plans. It goes way beyond just logging times and distances. He can customize every element of that training session.
So it's not just a digital notebook. It's more like a virtual assistant coach,
Yeah.
helping him analyze the data, fine-tune those workouts.
Exactly. And I bet it's not just creating the initial plan, it's probably tracking progress, flagging areas where an athlete might be plateauing or struggling.
This is where the fun begins.
Okay, so let's peek into this season plan, right? And right away, you see it's not just swim sets. It's travel days, competitions circled, even a school carnival. Like, remember, he factors in the whole athlete's life.
Yeah, it's like he's anticipating energy dips and planning recovery time before they even happen. And look, each week has a theme. Aerobic base, speed emphasis, taper, and race prep. So systematic.
And within each week, you get these beautifully detailed training sessions. Like Tuesday morning, it says ACAP P drag. Now, we could just say, oh, that's aerobic capacity, pole work, and drag equipment. But what does that actually tell us about the intent?
So ACAP means building that endurance engine. But pairing it with P, the pull buoy, isolates the upper body so it's not just mindless laps.
Exactly. It's targeted endurance. And the drag element, that could be anything from a drag suit to a parachute, simulates race conditions, forces the swimmer to work harder. It's like building a muscle car engine. You don't just rev it in neutral, you put it under load.
Okay, so even a single abbreviation, like ARICAP, has all these layers of meaning. And then there's things like UWKPAP, which I'm guessing is underwater kicking. And PTP, probably a backstroke-specific drill. It's like a whole new language.
But once you decode it, you see how each element builds on the last one. It's not random, it's building towards something. And look, he's even got notes about core work, mobility exercises, even yoga.
It's that holistic approach again. He's not just building swimmers, he's building athletes. I love this.
And check this out, a joint training session with the Japanese national team.
Wow. Talk about exposure to a different training style. I bet those swimmers pick up some amazing techniques and tips from each other.
It's not just the physical skills. Imagine the mental boost of training alongside Olympians from another country. It just broadens their horizons, shows them what's possible. And look how the schedule adapts around things. University break boom time for a huge training block.
It's strategic, like he's playing chess with their energy levels.
And remember, burnout is the enemy of long-term success. He's got their well-being in mind, not just short-term gains.
Okay, fast forward a few weeks and we hit test week. This must be where he evaluates progress and makes adjustments.
Exactly. It's not just following a rigid plan, it's about constantly assessing and adapting. And look at this. Right after the test, they're diving into the state open competition. Talk about pressure.
But remember what we said earlier about the mental training. He's been preparing them for this all along. It's not just physical conditioning, it's mental resilience too. And get this, he has them watching an EO documentary.
EO, what's that?
Esports. I had to look it up. Maybe it's about strategy under pressure or dealing with intense competition. Who knows? Definitely not your typical swim training material.
That's Ganzevles for you. Always thinking outside the box. He probably sees parallels between the mental game in esports and swimming. Focus, decision-making, performing under pressure.
All right, I have to admit, those detailed workout breakdowns were pretty overwhelming. But seeing the whole season plan laid out like this makes it click. It's all connected.
It really highlights the art of coaching, doesn't it? Taking all this knowledge, the science, the data, the intuition, shaping it into a plan that produces champions.
It's like a symphony, and we're seeing the conductor score. But honestly, what stands out to me most is just how personalized it is.
Right. It's not just knowing the latest training techniques, it's about knowing your athletes inside and out.
It goes way beyond generic workouts or copying what some other coach is doing. Each swimmer is a unique puzzle, and the training plan is the solution.
That's a lesson any coach in any sport can take away from this deep dive.
Okay, I'm ready for another close-up. Those notes on backstroke technique were so detailed. Let's dive into those next.
Just so you know, the full presentation's online at wafsu.org, WAFSU.org. You have to log in. It's in the course called Bygone Virtual Meetings. Look for Sander.
All right, backstroke time. I am ready to nerd out on technique because these notes are seriously impressive. It's like he's dissecting the perfect stroke, highlighting all these tiny details that I feel like most people would just miss.
You realize at the Olympic level, those tiny details, they can be the difference between gold and silver. And he's not even talking about like a textbook ideal. He acknowledges that every swimmer's body is different, so there's no one-size-fits-all perfect stroke.
It's about finding the most efficient and powerful version for that individual swimmer. So, where does he even begin with this analysis?
Well, he starts with the hand entry. Pinky finger should enter first hand in line with the shoulder to set up a strong catch and pull phase. He talks about avoiding that common error of overreaching, where the swimmer extends too far forward, creating like an inefficient A-frame in the water.
Yeah, like minimizing resistance from the very first moment the hand enters the water. Okay, so then you've got the catch and the pull. That's where the real power comes from, right?
Exactly. He uses this analogy of a paddle, like a flat hand just kind of slices through the water, but a strong engaged hand acts like a paddle pulling the swimmer forward. And he stresses the importance of engaging the wrist and forearm, not just relying on those shoulder muscles.
So it's that early vertical forearm getting the whole arm involved, not just a weak little pull with the hand. So once you've got that catch, what's next?
The push, extending the arm, fully pushing water towards the toes. The key here, he says, is maintaining a 90-degree angle at the elbow for maximum power and efficiency. Then there's the recovery, where the arm exits. The water returns to that starting position.
And that has to be smooth. You don't want a jerky recovery creating drag.
Right. He emphasizes a relaxed and extended recovery, minimizing resistance and setting up for that nice clean entry we talked about earlier. But it's not just about the arms. He also talks about timing and coordination between the arms and the legs.
Right. Everything needs to be working together like a well-oiled machine. So what's he looking for in terms of body rotation and timing?
He's very specific. Shoulders should rotate more than 90 degrees, while hips rotate slightly less. This creates a really powerful torso rotation that drives the stroke. And he stresses that the arms should be in opposition. As one arm enters the water, the other one's starting its recovery. This ensures continuous flow and avoids those dead spots in the stroke.
It's amazing how much thought goes into something that just seems so simple at first glance. But even with perfect technique, swimmers can still really struggle with pacing. And Ganzevles specifically mentions that issue of starting strong, but then fading in the second half of a backstroke race.
And that's often a sign of poor aerobic efficiency. They're literally running out of gas because their bodies aren't utilizing oxygen effectively. And what's interesting is that he actually links this to a loss of technical control as well, as fatigue sets in form, starts to break down, which leads to wasted energy and slower times.
So it's this vicious cycle. So how do you break that cycle and build that aerobic base while maintaining technique?
Well, he provides some really interesting example sets in his notes. One of them focuses on what he calls threshold training. It starts with a long, steady swim at a moderate pace, and then progressively shorter swims at increasingly faster paces.
So building up to that race pace, but in a controlled way, making sure the technique holds up. What else does he recommend?
Another set focuses on developing those underwater dolphin kicking skills, which are so crucial for backstroke. He incorporates a lot of underwater work, challenging the swimmer to hold their breath and maximize propulsion off the wall.
Yeah, that's smart because a powerful dolphin kick can really give you an edge off each turn.
Exactly. He also includes intervals with fins, which help develop leg strength and endurance.
Okay, so we've covered technique, pacing, even underwater skills.
He's attacking the problem from all angles.
And it really shows how every workout, every drill has a purpose. It's not just about mindless laps. It's about strategically building towards those goals. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Sander Ganzevles' world, I have to ask, what would he tell us if we walked up to him and said, Coach, we need to design an aerobic workout with pull and drag elements for Monday afternoon? Where would we even begin?
He'd probably chuckle at our cluelessness. All right, team, let's walk through this together. First, remember those key elements: warm up, preset, main set, warm down. He's big on structure.
Okay, so warm up easy swimming, maybe some drills specific to the main set focus.
Right. Then the preset, that bridge between warm-up and the main set, where we gradually increase the intensity. So maybe some longer pull with the drag suits focusing on holding that pace and that form.
Then we hit the main set broken into multiple parts, right?
Exactly. We could start with a block of longer pull with drag building that aerobic base, then transition to shorter, higher intensity pull with drag incorporating some all-out sprints to challenge the anaerobic system too.
And finish with longer pull at a moderate pace, focusing on stroke efficiency, just kind of flushing everything out, prepping for the warm down.
Perfect. Then a good cool down with easy swimming and stretching. But here's the key. Ganzevles will be watching like a hawk, making adjustments based on each swimmer's energy, their technique, even their mood that day.
So the plan is just the starting point. The real magic is in that coaching intuition, knowing how to tailor the workout in the moment. It's like he's conducting a symphony, but the musicians are the swimmers.
He's got 100 different instruments to play.
So for all of you listening out there, as you're thinking about implementing these concepts into your own coaching or your own training, think about Sander Ganzevles' approach. Data-driven, but deeply personalized. It's about understanding the why behind the what and never settling for good enough.
It's about embracing that continuous improvement mindset, always seeking new knowledge and pushing those boundaries.
Exactly. Keep diving deep, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Back to that travel bit. Wishing Steve and all the swimmers from the U.S. and around the world safe travels to the AAU meet in Serbia. And there's a good time to think about travel for the next season. By the way, in the fall, the International Swim Coaches Association is holding 2 open water swims in different parts of Virginia. And thanks for recording a little audio and sending us your travel stories.